Hi GracePointe, it's Natasha. I'm in upstate New York right now. I want to give a big shout out to my online community and welcome you all here today. We're so glad you could make it. We want you to know that no matter who you are, who you love, or how you exist in this world, you are celebrated, loved, and welcomed. Enjoy the service.
She is so right. You are celebrated, loved. You are welcome here. Will you stand with us? We want you to sing this song with us. It's a GracePointe original. God is with us. God is for us. God is on our side. Maker of eternity, right here and now. Creator of all that we see, with us somehow. I cannot explain such mysteries. Who could ever know what this all means? God of the universe, all Son. Oh, I cannot explain such mysteries. Who could ever know what this all means? The visible image of God is our love. Oh yeah, yeah. God is with us. God is for us. God is on our side. And all who are here join the chorus. God is on our side. Everything is gonna be alright. God is on our side. All of creation is joining the sound. Let liberation explode from the ground. Oh, lift up your voice, make it loud. Y'all know it. God is with us. God is for us. That's right. God is on our side. Y'all sound amazing. Sing that again. God is with us. God is for us. God is on our. Come on, keep singing it. God is with us. Oh, God is with us. God is for us. God is on our side. God is on our side. One more time. God is with us. God is with us. Oh yeah, God is for us. God is on our side. God is with us. God is for us. God is on our side. Let all who are here join the chorus. God is on our side. Everything is gonna be alright. God is on our side. Yeah, God is on our side. Oh, God is on our side. Y'all sound awesome. We are so glad that you are with us here today. You may notice a couple of changes to the environment a little bit. We want to make it a little warmer, welcomer, easier to access. So we're glad that you're cooperating with us with that. You want to take a minute and introduce yourself to somebody, talk to somebody. It should be a little easier with the chairs at this point. We'll be back in just a minute.
everybody. My name's Amanda. I have some announcements for you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I do want to, really quick before I get into announcements, acknowledge the online community. So let's say hello to them. Good morning. If you have your phone, you can scan the QR code on the screen or on the table to see the weekly announcements and fill out the connection card so we can all be best friends. The young adult meetup is happening again on Thursday, May 5th from 6:30 to 8:30-ish, sometimes a little bit later than that, at Disc and Cider. It's going to be great. Don't forget, we have Reimagine on Wednesday nights at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and Coffee and Conversation with our pastoral intern, Hunter Wade, Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Time. Our Q2 InReach is Nations Ministry Center, a local organization that is committed to helping refugees in Nashville rebuild their lives and become self-sufficient by providing immigration services, a sense of community, and after-school and summer youth programs. For more information about volunteering, visit our InReach page. Tiffany, I believe, is coming up next to talk about other things. Yay, give it up for Tiffany!
That is not my skill set. Thank you. Hello, I'm Tiffany. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the director of kids and youth, and I'm tired because we're doing stuff. So, one, I want to say thank you for being here, online community, wherever you are, whenever you're watching, and thank you for showing up in person today so I have people to talk to. And I have, yeah, you can cheer for me. That's okay. Yeah. Those of you who are like, that's not my thing, that's cool too. Because I would not be that, I would have sat there awkwardly also. So I'm catching my breath from running. But here's the things I want to talk to you about. Last week, thank you for those of you who already were like, hey, I want to volunteer and get plugged in. Thank you for giving of that time. And so I have volunteered to talk about the most awkward part of church. So get yourselves ready. It is money. Take a deep breath. Okay, here we're going to go. No one likes talking about money, but I think for me personally, it's a faithful thing for me to think about it, even if I don't want to. It's a resource I have the privilege to have, to be honest. And I've had times I have not had that resource, and people had to supplement things for me. So when we talk about money, and we've talked a lot as a staff about this, it is awkward and uncomfortable, and we just want to name that. And also, we want to reclaim it. What does that look like as a church? And so for me, this is what it looks like. I don't need you to give money because I need you to give money. That's a financial giving. And that's a great way to give. But we're okay, like honestly. And you're not supposed to say that in church. You're supposed to like beg. But we're okay. But what I want to tell you about is right now, if you go in that back room, you're going to see kids. And the last week, we ran out of chairs, like physical chairs. Not because we are poor enough, can't find enough chairs. Like, we have so many kids, we ran out of chairs. And thank goodness our older kids were like, I'll sit on the floor. Like, we are running out of space, which is the most beautiful, amazing thing that is happening. That's the vision of our church. Our church can stay still, and we are going to be amazing and great and continue to create this space for people to feel loved. And also, we can do so much more. We can tithe. Tithe is not the word I wanted to use there. That's my churchy thing I got to get rid of for a second. So breathe. But what I want you to do is like literally invest in this vision that's happening. And we're going to keep talking about this every week. And we're going to get more comfortable with it. But the vision of what's happening is we're growing. Online and in person. When you give to the online community to be able to exist and know someone else in the world is queer and a Christian, and maybe they're hiding, but online they have someone who can like connect with them. Or you get to show up here and have a community with young adults and older adults and children, and we get to do all this stuff, but then we also get to engage in justice, and we get to put our money into action. That's what this is. It is also lights, but it's also radical change. And that's what we want to do. So, this is how you give. Get your phone out. Do it. If you want to. You don't have to. It's not a guilt. But this is a QR code. If you don't know how to use that, you just like hold up your phone's camera to it and it will open. And you can give, and that's great. You can do it now. And you can also, like if you're like me and ADHD and forgetting all your stuff, just make it reoccurring so you never have to think about it again. But we're going to keep talking about money because it's our faithful way to use our resources to better the world and change the face of progressive Christianity and Christianity around the world. Like literally, that's what we're going to do. So I'm done, and I'm going to go play with kids. Goodbye.
She's awesome. We love you, Tiffany. Thank you. Yeah, so we want to move into a time of communion. It's a very special time for us as a church, as a body, as a community, to come around together, equal playing field. No one is required to take communion. Every single person here is welcome to. So you have your communion things. If you're gluten-free, you've got, yeah, I see it. That's awesome. Do you want to stand and sing this, say this together? We love to say this in unity and truly believe every single word that we say about this. Let's read it together. Come to this table, you who have much faith and you who struggle with believing, you who have been here often and you who have come for the first time, you who are at peace and you who feel despair. We are all part of the human family, and there is a place for us here. Christ invites everyone to the table. May this bread and wine unite us all. That's good. You can celebrate communion. Thank you. You can stay up or you can be seated, whatever you want to do. Been? Why are you afraid? Oh, tell me, my friend, what can I say? I can see that you're still hurting. Let me take some peace. Thank you. You can have a seat.
Hello, GracePointe. How's everybody doing? Good. It's so good to see you. Those of you who are in the room, those of you who are online. If you're here to catch the party bus that was outside, I think it's gone. So that's a bit of a bummer. So everybody, as you may know, this is Hunter Wade. Can you say good morning, Hunter? Hunter has been our intern this semester. And in like 2 weeks, she's graduating with her MDiv. And so, huge congrats in order to you. That is so much hard work. And so we wanted to take just a minute because this is her last week officially interning with us. I wanted to take just a minute for you as a community to get to express your gratitude and to just say that you will probably still see Hunter around some. Do you want to say anything? You don't have to. I'll just put you on the spot here.
Thanks.
There's a mic right there.
Speech. Well, yes, I have a sermon prepared. No. I just want to say thank you so much, GracePointe. Online, hello, my friends, and in person, y'all are such a welcoming community, and to be welcomed in that way, even from afar, is so, so special. So I'm grateful for you all. I'm so glad I got to spend my last semester of school living out what I've been learning with you all, and also, you're not getting rid of me that easy. I will be around. I'm actually moving to Nashville in the summer, so I'll be around. Yeah, exciting. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Hunter. Hunter's also going to preach this summer, so you'll get to hear her preach again, too. So let's thank her. And one last, so we had a leadership retreat this weekend. It was the first time all of our staff team have ever been together in the same room, if you can believe that or not. And so we also have with us this morning Corey, Sarah, and baby Izzy right down front. So glad to have you all here. Well, hello, GracePointe. We all survived Easter. That's the good news. And last week, we began a brand new teaching series called Unhelpful, where we're essentially just looking at things that people often say, and they often say them to us when we're going through really difficult moments where we're processing grief or pain or hurt or trauma. And they say things that I really think are well-intended. Yes, it's totally well-intended, but often it's sort of from a place of cliche, and I don't know what to do, and I don't even know if I believe this, but it's what people say in these moments. And I'm sure we've all been on both sides of that coin, right? We've been the receiver of such comments, and I bet there are times, even as your faith has been shifting and growing and changing, I bet some of you, because this has happened to me before, have said something in the moment where you're like, I don't believe that. That's actually terrible. And it's just so ingrained and so built into us. And so we're just exploring some of those. And today I want to look at one that I think is really, really unhelpful, and that is this phrase: God will never give you more than you can handle. Anybody in this room or online ever been God will never give you more than you can handle before? Did that make everything better for you? Did that just rainbows appear and birds were singing and suddenly the storm clouds were gone and life was perfect again? It's akin to just sort of one of those things well, just be okay, right? Just get up. God's never going to give you more than you can handle. And what does that mean? Does that mean, sort of like we talked about last week, is God testing us? Are we ultimately lab rats? Is creation just a maze that God puts us little tiny human mice in and we just run around and God's just trying to see what we're going to do? Right? But from some of the same theology that produced this phrase are people who believe that God knows everything that you're going to do. What you're going to do next week, God already knows. Right? So why does God need to put you through things to see what you'll do? It's like God should already know that. Is God trying to find our breaking point? Is that what God is ultimately like? I want to see how far I can push them to the edge, how much torture I can place them through, how much heartbreak, how much loss, how much trauma, how much suffering. I want to see how far I can take them. And look, if you've ever read the Bible, I mentioned this book last week, but if you've ever read the Bible, the book of Job is it's that theology in some ways, right? How many of you have ever read the book of Job? The book of Job goes like this. God is hanging out with the Satan. That's a whole other sermon. We'll get there someday. And God's like, hey, check out Job. Isn't Job great? And the Satan, it's not a name, it's a title, the Satan, the adversary, the accuser, is sort of like a prosecuting attorney in God's court in the book of Job. And the Satan says to God, well, it's only, everything's up and to the right for Job. You've only blessed Job. Job has everything. Job is living the life. I bet if I go down and just mess it all up, Job will curse you. And that's how God's like, okay, let's see. Like a divine wager produces untold suffering and sorrow. Now look, I think that is a snapshot of how our ancient spiritual ancestors wrestled with the problem of evil and pain and suffering in the world. Just because it's in the Bible doesn't make it good theology. I think I should say that again. Just because it's in the Bible doesn't make it good theology. Sometimes, if you follow the theology of the Bible to the letter, you will do some pretty terrible things to yourself and to one another in the world. And so here's the reality. Is this in the Bible? That's a really good place to start. Is it in the Bible? Does it say, is there chapter and verse that God won't put more on you than you can handle? No, sort of. And so here's why I say sort of. So no. Like there is no, it's not like in Hezekiah 3:16, God will never put more on you than you can handle, right? Like nobody's getting that verse tattooed because it doesn't exist. But there is a passage in the New Testament that sort of gets grabbed onto and sort of Rubik's cubed a little bit and shaken around, and people go to it for support. It's found in 1 Corinthians, and it's chapter 10. And let me give you the context before I read the verse to you. Here's the context. This writer, Paul, is writing, and he's using the Exodus story. And here's the issue he's dealing with in Corinth. Like, they're struggling with, there's a Jewish population in the community, there's a Gentile population in the community. The Gentile population is used to going to places like temples for meals, right? Because often people would throw a feast, and you would go to the temple, and there would be an offering, and then you would eat in the presence of the temple as a way of making peace with the divine. You would eat within the meal within the temple, and you had like newly Jesus-following people who were still doing that, and it was causing problems for other members of the community. And so Paul is trying to say, like, maybe not, but like he struggles. Because at one point he's like, you can do whatever you want. And then he's like, I don't know. Like, Paul's wrestling with this as he writes it. But he decides, I'm going to use a snapshot of our history from the Exodus movement and the wilderness wandering. And I'm going to use it as a cautionary tale to warn this community about the possibilities that happen when you do this sort of thing. And so he's warning them about this predicament that they're in. And here's what he says. No testing. Some translations say no temptation. It's a Greek word, pyrasmos. It can mean trial, test, temptation. It just kind of depends on who's translating it in the context. No testing has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. Like he begins with, you're not unique. Congrats. And then he goes on. God is faithful. He will not let you be tested beyond your strength, but with the testing, he will also provide the way out so that you will be able to endure it. Right? Now, there's lots of things we could dig down on this. Maybe he's talking about an emergency exit in the temple so you can get out. There are all sorts of places we can go with that. Here's what he's not saying. To every single person that's ever lived, in your everyday life, in your ups and downs, your good, your bad, all of it, God will never put more on you than you can handle. Because what Paul doesn't say in that text is God is testing you. Right? That's not what he says. He's like, you're experiencing trials. You're experiencing tests. You're experiencing struggle. You're going through some things. And the good news is you don't go through the things alone. You go through the things within, because God is the one in whom we live, move, and exist. This temptation trial isn't from God. And actually, later in the New Testament, a writer named James puts a little bit finer point on it. He says, no one when tempted or tested should say, I'm being tempted by God. Because God can't be tempted and God tempts no one. Like, anybody ever been like, you got that flat tire and you're like, God's just testing me? You got that letter from the IRS? No matter what it is, when you get a letter from the IRS in the mail, do you just like immediately break out into a cold sweat? Like you failed the exam, something blew up that you were planning. Is that, God's just testing me? That's actually, God doesn't do that. James says, God's not in the business of testing people. We're not lab rats. We're not people. God's like, let's see what they'll do if I do this. And the image I have in my mind is sort of like Jenga, right? Anybody played Jenga before? I thought about bringing it up here, but then I was like, I'm going to spill it everywhere. But Jenga is you're moving one piece and you're putting it on, and the support system gets smaller, but the weight up top gets heavier, and whoever knocks it over loses. Is that what God, are we like walking Jenga? where God's like, I'm going to move this around and that around, and I'm just going to see what makes you topple over. And then when you topple over, I'm going to send along my followers to shame you for not being strong enough. Is that really, really what God is up to? It sort of feels like sometimes in a lot of theology, like God has a laser pointer and we're the cats. Like, do you ever do that? I mean, I don't do that. I've done that. But, you know, like they're just darting around going from, is God just all for God's amusement? Here's what I think. What if God doesn't put anything on us? But what if God's hope and goal is to actually lighten the load we carry? That's radically different, isn't it? That's not, well, God won't give you more than you can handle. This is God saying, you've got too much already. You're carrying things that human shoulders weren't designed to carry. And so often, because of shame, because of guilt, because of trauma, we end up hiding and we're carrying it all alone. And what if the whole point of community, what if the whole point of faith, what if the whole deal is God going, looks like you've got too much on your shoulders. Let me take some of that off. So many of us have had the opposite experience. So many of us have gone to church and we've been shamed because we're not doing enough. So many of us have lived in life and been struggling, and we've confided in somebody that, I need help, I can't keep doing this. I need to see a therapist, or I need some friends to come alongside me and support me, or I just need a break. This is like wave upon wave upon wave, and I just can't. And they're like, well, God will never put more on you than you can handle. So right now it sounds like what you have is not a stress problem, you have a faith problem. That is the appropriate response. Along with your squealing tires getting the heck away from them after they say that to you. But how many of us have been in that state where what we needed was help? What we needed was support. What we needed was to be seen. And what we were given was shame, 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 shame. And I'll just be honest. I have never once in my life had an experience where God showed up in my life in some physical way, like hey, I'm God. See the beard? Like I'm God. And did a thing. Every single time in my life when I've ever had a sense of the divine, it has always been through other human beings. Because I think there's something to this idea of human image bearing. Like when you show up, wherever you show up, the divine has entered the room. And actually was there before you even got there, but you embody and you bring. And what if the way God seeks to lighten the load of human beings in the world is through other human beings who know that they are carrying a lot too, and they need people to support them and come around them and encourage them? I think the question we have to ask, is the church going to be a source of liberation or a source of oppression for people? Is the church going to deepen the wounds, or is the church going to bandage and put balm on the wounds to bring healing? Is the church going to lighten the load of the world, or is it going to seek to make it heavier? There's this great moment in the Gospel of Matthew where Jesus sort of in the text, it sort of seems like he's just bursting to say this. Like he just yells it out. Come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Rest. Yeah, I'll be honest. I hope sometimes many times, most of the time, all the times, I hope when you leave GracePointe, you actually feel a bit lighter. I do. I spent my life going to church and walking out feeling way, way heavier than it. Like whatever it would be like with zero gravity, like when gravity's bigger, like if you were on Mars, you know what I mean? Like it would just be heavy. Like that's what it felt like church would get. I'm not an astronomer, but you get it. That's what I always felt like church would do, is like you come in and you're feeling pretty good. It's a nice day. There's a party bus outside. You're just feeling great. And all of a sudden, it's like you're not enough. You don't believe enough. You don't do enough. And if you feel like it's too heavy and if you feel like it's too much, it's not God's fault and it's not our fault. It's your fault. You haven't done enough, believed enough. You just haven't been enough. And it seems like Jesus is doing the opposite. Jesus is saying, actually, you've been told that lie your entire life. Let's take some of that off of you. Let's take some of that heaviness away. I didn't put that on you to begin with. It's not the thing I do in the world. Is the church going to be a source of removing heavy, oppressive loads, or are we going to keep heaping them onto people. I remember in the Gospels when Jesus essentially says, look, beware of religious leaders who tie up heavy loads and put them on you and don't lift a finger to take them off. It's almost like one of the ways you maybe get the sense that something might be legit, and that whatever God is and whatever the Spirit of God means, that whatever that reality is, that it might have something to do with it actually is removing the heaviness. And it's actually bringing more likeness. Now, by likeness, I don't mean everything's perfect and it all goes away. And no, but a sense of you're not carrying that alone anymore. That you're seen and you're known and you're valued and your voice is heard and you are loved and you are not shamed, but people are coming alongside you and reminding you of exactly who you are. Because who the church has told many of us we were our entire lives has been wrong. And it has been steeped in control and power and greed. Because they wondered what you would do if you were ever set free. Right? Listen to these words from Marcus Borg. We are and this is, if you're an eye closed person, this might be a great moment, because when I read this quote, it just sort of washes. We are accepted by God, affirmed by God, beloved by God, just as we are. Life is not about the anxious project of measuring up, but about living one's life grounded in God's grace. You ever felt that sense of like, I don't measure up, or like I need to measure up? You ever felt that need to posture like everybody around you has it all together? I'll tell you, sometimes one of the places I feel that the most is like in parenting, because I think everybody out, like, look at all these perfect parents in the world. And like I described to my own parents yesterday, our parenting approach is called survival. Like, it is survival. And you look around at other people, or you look at people who are maybe the same age as you, and oh my gosh, look what they've done, and you feel like you haven't done what they've done. Well, that's not your path, and that's not your story. You are exactly who you are. And exactly who you are as you are beloved, accepted, and affirmed by God. Life is not about measuring up. Is anybody in here exhausted? Anybody feeling overwhelmed? Anybody feeling like you're barely treading water? Anybody feel like everyone, including God, is watching you barely stay afloat and just waiting on you to sink? Not even offering you a life raft, just like, let's see how long they can tread water, and then we'll like slander them for not being able to tread water long enough. Anybody feel like you're not enough because you never meet the lofty expectations that you've been told God has set for you and that other people have set for you? Anybody constantly feel like you're having to prove why you belong and why you matter? I think it's to that sense Jesus says the words, okay, let me lighten that load. Let me take off that burden. You don't have to measure up. You don't have to prove. You belong, you're beloved, and you matter right now. Listen to these words from Richard Rohr. Gosh, I hope one day to believe these enough to actually embody it. There is nothing to prove and nothing to protect. I am who I am, and it's enough. I've read that quote for years. I've shared it in sermons for years, and one day I'm going to actually embody it and believe it. And I offer that to you today. There is nothing to prove. There is nothing to protect. You are who you are, and it's enough. You don't need to defend your existence or your worthiness. You are worthy right now. You are enough. You are beloved. It is okay to set boundaries without feeling shame. Too much going on, you're too heavy, it's okay to say, no, I'm not going to do that thing you're asking me to do because I'm exhausted and I'm barely going. It's not unchristian to take care of yourself. It's the whole oxygen mask on the airplane situation. It's a little counterintuitive, but you put your own on first so that you can then put it on others. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to feel like you're barely going. It's okay to say, I need somebody to come and share this heavy load with me. That's not weakness. That's not weakness. It is not weakness to say, I can't go it alone. I would argue that that's strength. I would argue that strength is saying, I know that if I keep doing this on my own, I'm going to fall under the weight. And so I'm going to invite some other people. There's no shame. It's not a lack of faith on your part. It's not a lack of trust. It's not a lack of belief. It's not you're incomplete or you're a bad person. No. This is part of the human experience, living in a world where things just continually get heaped upon us. And we're all running around trying to figure out what we do with it when we've been given a community to help do that together. Right? That's why we actually want to get you all together more. Right? Whether it's in person or online. That's why we do care groups. That's why we do those events like once a month or once a quarter or whatever it is, to get people together so that you see each other and you begin to know each other and you get invited into. Now, everybody's not going to do that, right? Like, we're not going to do open mic. Hey, come and tell us all your business. But what we will do is say, you need people. You need people who know you and know your story so that you're not carrying all this alone. A church is a community, and a church at its best and most beautiful is a community where we share the heaviness so that everybody can experience some lightness. Are you with me? GracePointe, does God not put more on you than you can handle? No. Because God's not putting things on you to begin with. But God always joins in the act of liberation and healing and the pursuit of wholeness. And I hope today, when you leave this space, whatever you feel a little bit lighter. Are you with me? Let's pray. God, I'm so grateful for this community of people, this community that is always growing and changing and has such an expansive heart and soul. And yet I also am aware that so many of us in this community have had our own experiences of being harmed and burned, and we've been told things that aren't true about us and about God and about the world. And so if this needs to be a healing space for some of us today, may that be what we have. If this needs to be a space of gratitude today, gratitude that maybe some of us in this room have been carrying some heaviness and recently we've been experiencing some lightness, may we celebrate that with them. And my great hope is that all of us will leave here today a bit lighter than we came in. We offer this in gratitude. And everybody said, amen.
There are no wrong roads and no window stays closed, and love is always sad when it fades, but glass is better stained anyway. Come on back to the front porch. Say my name through the screen door. Come on back to the front porch. Whatever you've done, it doesn't matter. 'Cause darling, we're all a little splintered and battered, but the light is on. What are you waiting for? Come on back. Come on back to the front porch. We carved a story in these boards, watching life go back and forth. You front porch. I took the long way, looking for a shortcut to find out that this place is made of the best of. If never you find what you're looking for, come on back to the front porch. Say my name through the screen door. Oh, come on back to the front porch. Whatever you've done, it doesn't matter, 'cause darling, we're all a little splintered and battered, but the light is on. What are you waiting for? Come on back, come on back, oh, come on back, come on back to the front porch.
Today's benediction comes from the artist Morgan Harper Nichols. She says, "You matter just by being here. You are not weak for needing rest. You are allowed to ask for help even for the things that you feel like you should be able to do by yourself. You are worthy of peace right here in the in-betweens, and you are worthy of a beautiful life just as much as anybody else. Grace and peace be with you."
Thank you for being with us. One quick thing, like we said, we're trying to try things out to make it a little more easy, a little more comfortable coming in here. But if you have time after this service to help us in any way getting these tables and chairs back, that's one thing that we will need to do. If you can, we've got a couple of people who are going to be directing that. But thank you for being with us. We love you so much. Have a good week.